Welcome to A Tale of Two Scribes. I'm your host, Eric P. Bishop. This is a podcast where interesting people come and tell about the stories they've crafted. As for myself, I'm an author. I've created novels, short stories, novellas, and even poetry. If you'd like to find out more about what I've done, please go to my website, ericpbishop.com. Thanks, and enjoy the journey. Welcome to another episode of A Tale of Two Scribes. This is the end of the year festive episode, so it's not just me talking to one scribe. I'm talking to four different scribes. So how much fun are we going to have tonight? That's
Yeah,
fun.
does he really know what he got into here?
I don't know. I didn't sign anything. He didn't give us any waivers. No NDAs were discussed. I think we're good.
Remember, all talk at the same time so no one can understand anything we say. That way Charles won't yell at us later for bad things that are said. No.
I'm keeping notes.
Thank you, everyone, for coming on. Thank you to our viewers. I'm going to just bill this as the last episode that airs for the year, although it's not really anything that formal. I just thought this would be a fun way to wrap up 2024 and bring on some of my favorite writers, some of my writing friends, which is a blessing to have. It's been a pretty amazing year doing the podcast. I think this is episode 40 that will air. So,
Wow. Nice.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
The person that's not here that gets a lot of the thanks is John Guinieri. He was supposed to be here about an hour ago. He texted me, and apparently he has to pay his bills and he has to guard people for a living. And he's guarding someone tonight, so he's not on the podcast. But thank you to John for the opportunity for A Tale of Two Scribes, because if I had to do all the work it takes and to put it together, there wouldn't be A Tale of Two Scribes. So.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. So we're just going to go around. Everyone should know who you are, because hopefully they've seen your episode of A Tale of Two Scribes during the year. But if they haven't, we're going to say a little bit about who you are, what's your latest book that came out, and of course, you know, I'm a proper gentleman as I'm dressed here tonight. So, ladies first. Just keep it PG-13, please.
Like I suppose I will be the acting lady in the room. My name is Adair. I write as A.M. Adair. I am a award-winning and now best-selling author, compliments of Origin Story, which was the novella that just came out last month. And I am a veteran, and I am also a screenwriting student, and I'm looking to foray into that world very soon.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Charles, you're up next.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Charles Hack. I live out in the West in Reno, Nevada, and I am a mystery and sci-fi author. And my technical schooling and training is in engineering. I'm actually an electrical engineer by trade, but my day job is I'm a pastor of a little Baptist church here in Reno, Nevada. So, and I have five books out currently.
Awesome. Very cool. We have a Dave and a David. I just wanted to confuse all the listeners and the guests at the same time. So we'll start with Dave, and then we'll end it up with Mr. Darling. We'll end with David on that.
Okay. David Buzan's my name. I'm from Oregon. I have a degree in psychology. I'm a film school graduate. My day job is in management. Been doing that about 3 decades now. My debut novel, which I just conveniently have right here, it's In the Lair of Legends. It came out in August of 2023. And I can say I'm also an award-winning best-selling author. It's done quite well.
Congratulations.
And you have a sweater you need to show everybody too.
Oh yes, this is my Bolo Young blood sport ugly sweater. So I love to wear it when I get the chance. One of my
brings back memories of my youth. Blood sport, kickboxer. I mean, boy.
Those are great Van Dams.
Yeah, the best.
Yes.
Van Damme in his heyday. I think we all love that. I don't know.
Yeah.
David, what do you think?
Well, it was a time and a place for it, that's for sure. I was also still involved in martial arts for over 40 years, so that's yeah. Don't spoil my childhood, okay, David?
David Darling, stand in for Van Damme is where we're going with this. He was the stand-in during the movies. So take it away, David. Give your background on how you for Van Damme.
Also a veteran. I was in the armed forces, Canadian Armed Forces. I'm representing Canada here, north of the border, and I was in the Canadian Forces for 17 years. Some of the best times I've ever had, and the best thing I ever learned from them was how to learn. And because of that, it changed my world because I was not always the best student. In the last 6 years, I've been writing. In the last five, I've published seven novels, and my eighth novel, The Egyptian Enigma, comes out in a few weeks. If you're reading this or seeing this, it comes out November 26th. So if you're seeing this late, it's already out. So I can officially say I've had eight novels published. As to awards, I've been top pick and the finalist with the Claymore Awards down in Nashville a couple times, and haven't won yet, but we're working on it. And as for the bestseller, I did achieve the bestseller status through Amazon a few times, so I'm working on that, and I just enjoy writing in the process, and I've met so many good people with it. So thank you all.
Yeah, I think I'll say that I can speak for all of us, and I think I can do it safely in this regard, is we all love to write. So whether any of us achieve bestseller status or become New York Times bestsellers or Amazon or USA Today, the good stuff for us is being able to tell our story and share it with others, whether those others are two people or 2 million. And we'd all like the 2 million because we're not dumb,
We could
we'd
even
like to quit our day jobs.
Yeah,
we could even share those 2 million, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
totally on board with this. Yeah.
I think 2 million sales between the five of us, we'd all be,
We'd be okay.
we'd all be dressed up a little bit more tonight.
Yeah.
No.
No.
I'm wearing my Nakatomi Plaza Christmas party,
Oh,
1988.
Oh,
I'm still wearing it. I don't care.
it is a
It's a
Christmas
classic.
movie.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's classic. I didn't realize that's what that was. Thanks for bringing that up.
What Emma's saying is if she gets invited to the presidential balls that will be happening in January, she'll be showing up in a Nakatomi Plaza t-shirt, and
And
everyone else will be like, that looks good.
I
Wow.
will not accept anybody saying that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It's just, it's my
It
number one.
It is the first movie. So I will be overseas during Thanksgiving, but it's the first. It's normally what I watch Thanksgiving night, if not the night after. So I'll have to wait until about 3 or 4 nights after this year. But yes, it is the first Christmas movie that I watch every year.
I got this for the kids this year. It's not gonna let me show you there. There's my Die Hard Christmas book.
I have that. It's awesome.
That's that's great.
Very cool.
Very awesome. So let's start this
We've already
off.
took you off the rails.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. That's what we want. Again, there's no rules to this. I don't want us to be, I don't want us all to be talking and people being like, I can't understand what the lead guy says anyways in most of these, but now I can't understand any of these people. And it's like, oh, well, sorry. No, so first thing I want to jump into, and I'll be the first one. I'm glad to start it off because I did grab a book from my shelf, is, talk about a book that's not yours because we want to talk about your books, but any book this year that's highly recommended read of the year. It doesn't have to be your favorite. It just maybe is something that you've really enjoyed and, kind of why and what you've dug into with it. So I've got one here, which fortunate to know Adam and get advanced copies of his books. And Deadbeat, I'm not done with it actually. It's my reading. I'll probably finish it on the plane this weekend. So it'll probably travel with me to the UK. But one of those writers that just seems to connect each story and doesn't always tell the same story. Everything's not a suspense. Everything's not a thriller, military thriller, whatever, which is, happens a lot of times with you kind of get stuck in a genre and that's all you write in. And Adam just seems to be a really masterful storyteller of kind of bouncing around with different things. And I think the greatest compliment any of us can get and we can give any other authors, is their characters draw you in. So you feel like you know the characters. And same thing with Deadbeat. Immediately, I'm just drawn to his characterization. So the story is great as well. But to me, if you can connect with the characters, you got me. Because I've gotten to the point in my life, and I've talked about this in other podcasts, where I get a lot of books at times, and I buy books. Man, if I'm not if I'm not in, that first chapter's got to grab me. That first chapter's got to make me go, man, I either despise this character or I'm intrigued or whatever it might be. Because years ago, I would finish the book. I would just say, well, I paid for it because never got free books unless they were library books. Now, I got no problem reading the first chapter and then just go read the last chapter and be like, hey, okay, I finished the book. No issues with that anymore. So I want something that's going to make me want to read every page. And Adam has been doing that for me for a while. So um, uh, let's mix it up this time and let's jump to Dave Buzan. Dave, what book has gotten you this year that you've enjoyed or you're currently reading?
Well, I've got two, and they're completely different. Okay,
Great.
The Day Tripper by James Goodhand, excuse me. I just finished this one a few days ago, and it's actually the first book that just broke me emotionally in about a decade. It's a beautiful story. It's a time travel story, which is actually why I started reading it. It sounded unique, but the depth of the characters, it's phenomenal.
Hmm.
It's just a book that you do a lot of self-reflection. It's powerful. It's just been a long, long time since a book just made me break down when I was reading it.
Yeah.
I do recommend that one. And my favorite book of the year is The Man Who Saw Seconds by a Canadian author, Alexander Boldazar. And it's a great concept. It's like Jason Bourne, but he can see 5 seconds into the future. And he gets into some trouble right off the bat. Talk about a great first chapter, by the way. And so he's basically the whole thing. He ends going to the Pentagon and the White House. And he's just tremendous. So it just escalates into like a global conflict against this. But the action is really good. He's got almost like a Matrix philosophy when he talks about action. So everything's just like, it's really detailed, but there's just a lot of philosophy behind all his writing. It's really good.
Nice. I did want to say this too. I should have led with this, is I have read a book from each of you this year as well. But I can't pick one of you because then the other three are going to be pissed at me. So
I already got your email. Thank you. I appreciate it. But
Yeah.
don't tell them I wrote that email. What are you doing, dude? Guess who's off the 2025 list?
Oh.
David Darling just got bumped.
I think I'm going to move this part of my shelf out of the screen here in a minute.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
No, but you've all done great, and again, that's the amazing thing about the community we have, and just being surrounded by so many great storytellers. It's a blessing, is what it is. It's that side thing. When I got into this, I didn't really think ever in the terms of camaraderie with other writers. I just wanted to tell a good story. And as I kind of dived in and then started going to conferences and started to, interact with writers online, I realized, man, these people aren't just competing against me and even remotely. I didn't ever, and I still to this day haven't ever felt that. And I kind of realized quickly that, you know what? Everyone here that I interact with is wanting to do the same thing. They want to tell a story and they hope someone will like their story and want to buy their story or maybe give them, an 8-figure advance on, a movie deal or a book deal or whatever. But, they simple pleasures in life is what they want. But no, we all have the same desire, which is to just and also get better at it. That's probably the highest praise I've gotten and will get probably is each time a book comes out. If one of the reviewers says, "Hey, best book you wrote so far," which one of my reviewers is on this I'm looking at right now. So that's that's what gets me excited, So
It's funny. I just got a message today from somebody that read my latest novel, and he had also read my first novel called The Tipping Point, a police thriller. And he says, he goes, I wouldn't have guessed it's the same author. He goes, it's just such a difference, such a gap. And he goes, it's incredible. So that's what 8 novels do. So I took that as a huge win. Made me feel great.
Yeah, high praise. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Well,
David,
hell, I go back to my first book and I'm just like, shit, I wrote that. Sorry.
Yeah.
That doesn't count, right, Charles? I mean, is there cursing allowed before you start praying for me?
I didn't hear anything.
Okay, I'm so good.
What the audience can't see is Charles just messaged me and said, "Tell her $20." that. Oh,
Oh,
there's the
Yeah,
20. He'll
yeah.
send you the Venmo to the church.
Fill,
yeah.
fill the jar. That's
Eric,
hilarious.
have you gotten a lot of feedback from readers about your second book? I mean, I have. I didn't think it's exceptional, but it's better than your first one. Like it's really good. Did you get a lot of readers saying that too?
Was that to me? Sorry.
It was to you, yeah.
Oh,
Breach of
sorry.
trust.
It snapped for a second. For Babylon Will Rise or for Breach of
Oh,
Trust?
yeah, breach of trust.
Oh, for Breach of Trust. Yes. Yeah, the reviews of it were so kind. Yeah, that and that was my concern. Obviously you come out with, and Body Man got really beyond what I expected for response from people. And yeah, you come out with a second one and you immediately are like, are they gonna like it? And for me, the publisher didn't like it. He rejected it. He said no. And I'm like, and I've told the story to people before, and I just kind of went back to my early readers, and I was just like, I even sent the comments and everything. I said, here's the email I got. What am I missing? And the responses I got were, you're not missing anything. This is wrong. And I'm like, okay, thank you. It's not just me. I'm not some blowharded, conceited person that thinks I wrote something better. Because I know it was better. But again, that's where it's
I
highly
mean,
subjective.
you might be a blowhard, conceited person, but you were right about the book, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now you
You
owe me 20. What in the
might,
world?
Oh,
you might.
Rejected.
Like,
Wow.
boy, it's a rough crowd here,
You
but
need to have like a little share screen where you're just doing tick marks, little hash marks of who
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
I got a
oh,
pen and sticky note. What are you talking about? I'm ready for this.
very nice.
Crossing Charles' name off the list. Like, you ain't getting no Christmas present. Santa's listening now. So, no, but yeah, I definitely got the response back. And I've continued to, like, with Babylon. I asked because Babylon Will Rise is getting that same thing. I don't know, I think I gave out 20 copies. I've already got like 10 responses back in the last month. And out of like 10, 7 out of 10, all 10 said really good things. And 7 were like, dude, best work yet. So it kind of, it gives you that confidence that you're heading in the right direction. Because I really feel like what I'm working on for next summer, which is Supreme Justice, and I was writing it last night. I think it's better. I think it's better than Babylon Will Rise because I'm hopefully learning from my mistakes. I'm getting better at explaining things and just growing. And that's ultimately the goal is I want to be able to tell each time the best story possible.
Well, that's the thing about writing. You can only get better by doing it and
Right.
not staring at a blank page. And you got to put words down and learn from your edits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only advice I
If I
really
could jump in, I just what Amos said a minute ago about looking back at your first book and what David's saying. One of the things I did this year, which was it's taken up a ton of time, but I went back and re-released my first three books actually. So I did full edits. I got a new editor and we did a ton of line edits, improving a ton of it. The story stayed the same, but it just tightened it up, made it a better book. Put a new cover on it. We've re-released it. Not really any impact in terms of like didn't make it sell more or anything like that. But thinking about when you look back at your old work, that was interesting. And it was embarrassing actually going through some of those edits and the red lines.
yeah.
Thinking like, wow, I can't believe that this is in here and those mistakes, or just some style things that my editors helped with. And I don't know, as an independent author, that's something we can do anytime we want. And I've found it to be a great exercise.
Yeah, absolutely.
I completely agree with that. Is like when you get a chance to actually control your intellectual property like that, it does add another hash mark in the side of independent over traditional publishing is just being able to have that flexibility to go back and potentially revisit things.
Yeah, I did the same thing actually with the Body Man. So, I mean, the Body Man, when it was with the publisher, sold extremely well. But earlier this year, when the publisher went out of business, the rights reverted back to me. And it just, in the course of the process with working with the publisher, things got added, things got changed, and they were very minor for the most part. But since I was going to re-release it, I had that control at that point. So the story, the Body Man, I called it, a revised, the second edition everything about the story is the same, but there was little tweaks. But what I did was I cut a lot out. So I think I don't remember exactly what the number was. It was somewhere in the range of 5 to 6,000 words I took out. So the version
Tighten
that
it
came
up.
out in 2021 versus what I released in 2024, it's a leaner book. It's a little bit, it's got less to it. But for me, and that's the direction I've been going with the books. And I know I've had these conversations probably with at least several of you offline, is to me, I'm going smaller with books. And I think it's because my attention span is getting shorter. There's gray hair I'm covering up with my Santa hat, so yeah. I don't see that. I'm colorblind. What's
Embraced,
there?
just embrace it. I've embraced it. Just enjoy it.
That's
Those are
what it
your
is.
kids. I have met one of them,
Yep.
so I know what you got that you got it legitimately.
Yeah, and you haven't met the terrorist yet. So
I know,
yeah.
that's true. I met the fun rock star one. So,
Oh my gosh.
David Darling, did you have a book comment on what you've been reading or something that stood out this year, that kind of one of your top picks?
I would say the top pick that's really standing out for me is from an author that picked up the series of Mitch Rapp, and it's Don
Okay.
Bentley, Capture or Kill. And how do you keep going on with the Mitch Rapp? He's what, 50 now in real life? We, man, my knees are sore at 50. So, um, but he took Mitch Rapp back, the untold story about 9/11. And coincidentally enough, I finished it on 9/11 this year,
Wow.
just before it was released. And Mitch Rapp is in good hands.
Mhm.
And Don's action scenes are just so, they bring the reader in, like they hook the reader in. And it's lean, it's not extra words. As a reader, I tend to skip, the fluff. There was none. And that, for me, time is time is precious, and I'm not gonna, I don't want to hear a flowery description of a living room for a full paragraph. I'll skip it.
Mhm.
I'll go right to the next part. There was none of that in Capture or Kill, and it was easily one of my favorite novels of the year.
Well,
Absolutely love it. Mitch Rapp is in great hands. That's
the
all I can say.
interesting thing about Don too is, he started with his own. I've been fortunate to meet him a few times. Started with his own books and then got brought into the Tom Clancy universe, which, that's a big, first of all, it's a big deal for an author, but also that's a big responsibility thrown on your shoulders. And I know authors that would probably pass on it if they really even were given the opportunity because it's so intimidating. So succeeded in that, and then to have, Kyle Mills, who's a terrific guy and an amazing writer,
Yeah.
he, brought Mitch Rapp back from the dead. And then
Oh yeah.
for him to hand that off to Don Bentley and Don be able to carry the torch, that says something for Don as a writer, to be able
Oh yeah.
to, it says something about guts to be able. And of course, when you fly an Apache, you probably have,
It
you
takes
have
a
you have
season.
gasoline or something going
Yep.
through. Aim and
Yep.
Yeah.
gas going through your veins.
Like
So
jet fuel there. Yeah.
Seasoned warrior to write is seasoned warrior, and that's why it works. Don's
yeah,
Oh yeah.
awesome.
yeah.
Oh yeah. No problems. So
Uh,
yeah, that's one of my favorite reads of the year. What am I reading right now? I'm I'm stuck in a mindset with I'm trying to experiment with first person writing in a fantasy setting with an omniscient background.
mhm,
So I picked up this web serial series called The Wandering Inn by Pirate Abba. It
hmm.
is absolutely huge. There's almost 15 million words in this series so far. So for all of us, that's just mind-boggling for me. But I'm reading it and thoroughly enjoying it. It's a fantasy world series and couldn't enjoy it more. It's really, really hooked me in, and I wish it didn't hook me in as much because it's taking away from my time to write.
Mhm. Charles, how about you?
Yeah, I have two I wanted to recommend as well. So the first one is Joel C. Rosenberg. This was his first thriller. It's called The Last Jihad,
Hmm.
and I have to say I've read um, most of Rosenberg's books at this point. This is the first one of this early series that I've read, but I think he's like the most underrated thriller writer out there.
Mhm.
His latest series, the Marcus Riker books, amazing. The series before that, J.B. Collins, the ending is worth. It's a trilogy. The ending, it was spectacular. The ending of the trilogy. So I recommend everything from Rosenberg. He writes an incredible thriller. The other one is, and this because it gives me some really great old school vibes.
Mhm.
W.E.B. Griffin, The Hostage. This is Presidential Agent book number 2. I'm slowly working through these. I love the characters. It gives me that old school Clancy politics, CIA vibe. If you like that stuff, this series is wonderful. Can't say I'm the biggest W.E.B. Griffin fan in general, but this series is awesome. So, Hostage, book number 2. I'm looking forward to getting into book 3, maybe early in the year, and I'm actually excited to get back into that world and those characters.
So my dad gave me my first Clancy books. My dad worked at the phone company, and so they would have umpteen hours like it's like the people that do construction on the side of the road. They just sit there half the time and they don't do anything. Sorry, Dad, if you're listening. But he would read, and he'd read all the time. So he'd bring home books. So the Clancy books were the first one that I dived into, but WEB was the other ones, and he brought in those ones. And I know he has Police Procedure, just
Yeah.
different series that he's written over the years. And I haven't read one in 20 years. But as a young person, as a teenager and into my early 20s,
Yeah.
I read quite a lot of the series that they
Well,
had out there.
and let me throw in too, like for those that like lean sort of fast thrillers. I mean, you got the president and all kinds of global politics and terrorism and stuff in this one, and it's pretty fast and lean.
Mm,
This is old school. Like if you love old school Clancy and you want 700 pages, well, it's not that big. It's 500 pages of
mhm.
procedure. What's so cool about this book is I think, and this might sound like a turnoff, but the story ends with a single gunshot basically
Mm,
to eliminate a bad guy, and the most of the book is this tension building up to this last event. And you think of books today and it's like bodies are stacking up and there's so much shooting and there's all this stuff, and it can get boring
yeah,
when there's just too much of the same thing. Griffin draws that tension out with some great characters and some mystery mixed with the political intrigue, and then the finale is just he hits a home run.
awesome. Emma, you died in a book this year. What books have you liked reading?
Yeah, yeah, I'm going to touch on that because this has been quite the year for me for books. But I, yeah, we started off with The Chaos Agent from Mark Greaney, and I am a massive Gray Man fan, so that obviously automatically makes my list. And the fact that my daughter has decided she loves everything court gentry as well has kind of made it a bonding experience. So anything Mark puts out, I have to have immediately.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, how many people can say they've had the opportunity to save the body man's life and of course die in the process, but I have saved the body man. So for everybody who reads your books, they should be thanking me because the body man continues because of my noble sacrifice.
Oh,
So
Thank you.
yeah, so Breach of Trust was a lot of fun for me, except I had to wait for what, how many months before you would let me read the climax?
Well, you
That
had to
was
wait
rough.
years, and then yeah, a couple months when I sent you the chapters. So
Yeah, but and truthfully, this isn't me just sucking up to you because you're doing this podcast. But since this is going to be out after, I really like Babylon Will Rise. That is my favorite
thank you.
one, and it comes down to you created a new character that I really like.
Yeah,
So, I invested in it because I like the team already, but you added a new character that really just kind of got the right tone and rhythm going with those guys, and it worked great.
thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
I'll wire you the money after this ends for the kind words, but
Well,
coming from someone
I've
that's
already been
lived,
dead in one of your books, so what else are you going to do to me?
I know I can't kill you again unless maybe Dawn of the Dead. We can bring you back somehow, zombie.
We're going for zombies now.
A
Okay,
couple
I'm
more
in.
times. David Darling will write it because he can cross genres like there's no tomorrow. So we'll have
oh,
David.
wow.
He'll ghostwrite it for me, so I
No,
can't.
I haven't killed you off yet. Hey, there's always chance.
There's always a chance, but no, and that means a lot coming from you just because I always walk that fine line with having a series that's more military centric since I didn't serve. I did have one comment of someone giving me some, not grief, but like the banter being like a lot of it. And I walk that fine line of how much do I have in there because some of my closest friends are either retired or active, and I've been with them for hours and hours, and it never stops. The trash talking never stops. The belittling never stops. And so, to me, when I'm writing with those characters, yeah, they sometimes will compliment each other, but most of the time, they're twisting the dagger a little bit just to get a little squeal. So, yeah,
That's
so
why
it was.
I'm muting it right now because otherwise I'd be poking at David still because like I think we'd met each other for maybe 30 seconds before we started busting each other's balls. And then he gave me a coin. So we're good.
Yeah, well, I see how I haven't actually said anything bad about the Navy yet, or any of that stuff. Like, no,
Killing you.
those days are long gone. You know.
I had the internal mute on him. We couldn't. He just couldn't hear him. I just muted his channel alone. Just to cover you.
No, but I think you've done a service to all of us just because you have caught that camaraderie, and we do have a tendency to use gallows humor, dark humor
Yeah.
to cover up a lot, and that comes across in the banter of the team, and it works out great. And so for me, I was able to read it and really enjoy it, but then also understand what was going on subtext wise.
Thank you. I actually got a message back. I had a phone call last week from one of my friends that's active duty, and I've dedicated this to another friend who's retired. It's actually the first book I've not dedicated to my mom or my kids. And I told my daughter a couple weeks ago, I said, by the way, Uncle Andrew's getting this dedication. She was kind of like, what? And I was like, well, this is a military, the novella was too last year, but it wasn't. It was a kidnapping thing. This one has a lot more with nuclear weapons and stuff. This is much more military centric. And I was like, I love you guys, but I don't want it to be expected that, well, every book gets dedicated because I have a couple others that are in the works now and I know who I'm going to dedicate them to and they're important people in my life and um maybe they won't get, maybe it's not exciting to have a book dedicated to them, but I know for me as a reading fan, just to show up in people's books a few times now, that's cool. That's really cool. So
This
if I say that with people too with cameos, and sometimes I probably put too many cameos in, but I love putting them in partially because I know what that's going to mean to the reader when they got a copy of a book and they're like, "Hey, I'm in this book." You're immortalized in a way, and hopefully something good happens to you. Most of the time they die, but not always. So.
Yeah, but we're thriller fans. We're, the right kind of crazy, and we enjoy things like that. And at the heart of all of it, we're all readers first.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
write in this genre because we love it.
Because we love it, absolutely. So let's switch genres a little bit and let's talk we probably won't. I know I gave you guys a list of stuff for topics. We probably don't need most of them because we're having a good banter. But I do want to dive into TV, and I'll start saying this with what I'm about to ask is I watch more television than I watch movies nowadays. I found that, and I still try to limit it. I'll watch an episode or a series sometimes while I'm eating dinner, but I'm trying to get to the point now where it's very rare to do it during a regular day, a regular evening that I don't know for my kids, because as we all know that are on this call, watching something means you're not writing something or you're not reading something. So I'm trying to walk that fine line. But tell me what television series, and we can probably blend that with maybe television series and what movie maybe you've enjoyed this year. I'll start it off real quick. In my movies, I was actually thinking about today. I was like, I'm asking these guys questions. What's my answer? I haven't watched a lot of them. I think I've been in the theater 4 or 5 times this year, and none of them were like, a Deadpool was good. I definitely enjoyed it. I don't know that I'll ever watch it another time though. I'm not sure if I saw it. I laughed. I enjoyed it. So movie wise, it's kind of been a little bit of a ho hum. My favorite thing I saw was 2 weekends ago. And Aim, I think I might have texted you. Maybe I didn't. I went and saw Back to the Future in a theater
Yes.
here in town
Yep.
with my daughter and my nephew. And that's my favorite movie of all time. And so to go watch it in a movie theater, and I
Wow.
mean, literally people applaud. Movie's been out, what, 20, not 29 years now? People applauded at the end of the movie. And it was an old theater, not stadium seating or anything, just the old slant. It was a blast. So I think that's my favorite. for movies for the year was probably Back to the Future, which I've seen maybe 100 and something times. And TV wise, I have binged some series, which probably is not good because it's probably affected my writing time. But I really enjoyed The Diplomat. That's one, Carrie Russell. So Netflix, I
On
came
my
out.
list. Still haven't seen it.
I don't know if it came out last year or this year, but season one was really good. Season two just aired in the last week or so, and I'm slowly gonna watch one episode probably a week, so it'll drag on for a couple months. But that'll be my dinner time, no kids, watch something while I'm eating event once a week. So, but The Diplomat, I like the British stuff. I like the foreign embassy kind of stuff going on. I'll be in England in a week, so I it kind of get drawn to it, I think. So, um, Charles, what do you got for movies, TV shows? Anything stand out to
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, so I'm kind of like you, where we're not watching it much. I mean, we do watch a fair amount of TV as a family, but we watch a lot of like reality stuff, like,
Mhm.
we watch a lot of sports, and we've been hooked on Drive to Survive, the Formula One documentary behind the
Really good
scenes.
show.
Oh my goodness, it's addictive. But they're in my mind fantastic. Dark Winds, which is
Hmm.
2 seasons. It's been out. It's based on Tony Hillerman's Joe Leaphorn character in
Okay.
his Leaphorn series, which is a big inspiration for me for my book, which I did not mention earlier. Um, and what they did with uh, Leaphorn and the whole series is incredible with the Navajo Indians and stuff. In this, it stars the actor who was the sheriff, the tribal sheriff in tribal police in Longmire, if you remember. Uh,
Yes.
he very dynamic actor. I'm forgetting his name right now, but he's wonderful. The whole series is great. They're short. It's like 8 episodes. Maybe it's based on the books.
Mhm.
Can't recommend it enough. And as far as movies go, we have seen very little. Uh, we went and saw Twisters in the theater. Had a great time. There was some good country music in it. It was fun. Uh, we just enjoyed that. But we actually just watched at Halloween. We watched the old um, what's it called now? The Headless Horseman movie with
Sleepy
oh,
Hollow.
yes, yes, Sleepy Hollow. Thank you. So much fun. So just sort of Victorian Gothic, Halloween vibe, and it was a lot of fun. So I'd throw that in there too.
Dave, how about you? I know
Well,
you're a
then,
you actually go to the theaters on a somewhat regular basis, I think.
yeah, I try to go every week.
Okay.
So I'm a big movie guy. I don't watch a lot of TV. I do all the Gordon Ramsay shows. I love those.
Yeah.
So Hell's Kitchen season 23 is great. The Tulsa King season 2 is phenomenal.
Okay.
But I'm a big Taylor Sheridan fan, so I really enjoy his writing. But I think that season 2 of Tulsa King is just fabulous. And I haven't watched the last episode yet. I'm going to watch it tonight.
Yeah.
Season ends. Yeah. For films, it's been a good year for horror films. So actually, my favorite of the year is a horror film called In a Violent Nature. So it's a slasher film that's like 90% of the point of view of the killer. So we never actually get to see outside what he sees. It's the cinematography, the editing, the sound design is just fabulous. But I'm like one of the only few that likes it, so I don't. It's hard for me to recommend. It's just got such a incredible reaction as negative from a lot of horror fans. I just love it. Naomi Scott, Smile 2. I think that's the best performance of the year I've seen. She's just fabulous.
Nice.
And Kevin Costner's Horizon. That's a beautiful film. I really enjoyed that one.
Nice. Speaking of Gordon Ramsay, so Terrence McCauley, I think he might still be there, is over in London.
Yeah.
At least was. So he tells me, messaged me or whatever, because he knows I'm going. You
Yeah.
need to go to the Savoy Grill, he says. And I'm like, oh,
Nice.
what's that? I look it up. So I need to sell some books between now and Monday, apparently. So
Yeah.
oh no, Sunday. No, we're going Sunday night. So I'll be there. So yeah, it looks really good. The beef Wellington, I'm already hung. I think I'm going to starve myself until Sunday. So, so I should send him the bill. Maybe Terrence will pay for it. Maybe I can get his Amex or something. So, but
A
no,
few
no.
years ago, my wife and I, we went to Vegas. Our birthdays are one day apart.
Mhm.
So we were doing a birthday celebration just to go to Gordon Ramsay restaurant. So we
Yeah,
did to Hell's Kitchen and the Gordon Ramsay steaks. And it was just, it
sure.
was Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I'm taking, and I've alluded to it on social media. So every other year, I don't have my kids for Thanksgiving for like a full week, and that was a hard transition for me as a dad. For you see your kids every holidays, and all of a sudden, not only do you not see them, you don't see them for a full week. So I kind of made a decision a couple years back that every other year, I'm just going to, as weird as it sounds, just leave the country, go to a different country. That way they don't celebrate Thanksgiving. And of course, I'll talk to my kids. I'll miss my kids, but it's a little bit different when I'm sitting home at a friend's house on Thanksgiving or with my family up in Connecticut or whatever. So 2 years ago, and I know Amos knows about this and is slightly jealous. So 2 years ago on
Slightly,
slightly, I know, more than slightly. She's
massively, still. Yeah.
still thinking of stabbing me on a regular basis when she sees me. But 2 years ago, we were in Cardiff. I was in Cardiff, Wales, and had dinner with Barry from Shinedown, John Guarnieri, at Giovanni's little Italian restaurant. So great way to spend Thanksgiving. So this year, taking my mom, she's never been overseas. We're going starting in London. We'll take a train up to Scotland, and then we'll make our way over to Dublin for several days. And so I've already booked. A friend told me book as much as you can in advance because things do actually tours and stuff sell out. So if you think you're going to go that day, you might not get in. So I made it a point. Charles, I know Pastor and all, don't listen to this part. I will be at the Guinness Storehouse Brewery, whatever, drinking on Thanksgiving
Well,
afternoon, not even
so
evening. No.
so you have to understand that my tradition, faith tradition, which is tied to the Reformation and the Reformers, and a lot of English and Scottish theologians
Yeah, we're
are
good then.
big like whiskey and craft beer fans and supporters. So
I think I told you I did a Reformation history tour when I was in college. So I try to hit
yeah,
up
those are my peeps.
I'm
those
not
are
a
my
religious person, but you're starting to,
You're converting him.
Yay.
little recruitment here.
Research.
Yeah,
It's,
I
it's
mean,
all research.
yeah. I mean, even one of our favorite preachers from the 1800s in London, the Metropolitan Tabernacle, is still there in London. His name was Charles
Charles
Spurgeon.
Spurgeon.
Oh, I have his book right here. He used to smoke cigars like a madman, and almost all the pictures of him as an older gentleman with his big beard and his cigar. So
It was a Reformation tour, so we were in London, and guess what? We went to the Tabernacle. We went to his church, so I've got
awesome.
pictures there. Yeah, so it's funny. I
Wow.
won't
We
see it
won't,
this time, but
yeah, we
Well,
won't
isn't
turn
it
this
like
into
automatic? If you have a beard, you have to have a cigar. I mean, David, Charles.
No, I try not to put things over 2 inches in my mouth, so I'm good. Yeah. Oh,
too
oh.
funny, too funny.
Well, I heard that
Well,
from a Navy guy. So what do you?
we just got demonetized. Thanks, David Darling. Again, take you off the
No, I
2026 list as well. So
well, after all those years in the Army, I was up to smoking 4 packs a day, so I quit.
yeah.
August 1st,
Well done.
1997. So I haven't
wow.
had a smoke. I was in a trench and I threw my carton of smokes over to my buddy in the other trench, just like a grenade. And I said, I quit. I'm done. And that was my last smoke. So
Wow.
I haven't had one since. So,
Wow.
Congratulations. That's a great story too. That's how
oh,
you do it.
That's awesome.
Well, since you told us that story, now tell us give us some television or movies or
uh,
you don't have time, dude. You're writing
I
like
don't.
6 books at any given moment.
Yeah,
So
I have more than 6 on the go right now. I got another release coming out in February, March, and I got another one I'm working on to finish hopefully by the end of this year. So anyway, I'm busy. I really, really don't watch much TV. My wife turns it on, I leave the room. Uh, uh, my daughter watches Taylor Swift concerts. I stick it out for a second or two, then I leave. Yeah, so but one movie I am really looking forward to is by Rami Malek, coming out next year, The Amateur, and it looks so amazing. I've seen a few different previews, and
mhm,
it's right up my alley. So that's something I'm really gonna force myself to stay up past 8 o'clock at night and go to the movies.
mhm.
So I'm looking forward to that one. So
That'll be really good.
oh yeah, it looks
Yeah.
outstanding.
The original's really good. John Savage.
Yeah, it's an old book. I believe it was early 80s.
Yeah. And the movie was like 87, 88, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can't wait for this one. So
Yeah.
that's huge on my radar. So Uh,
Well, we're going to
I don't want to
shake
read the
David
plot.
Darling off and go to Emma with that question then. So since all she's interested is Taylor Swift. Oh, goodness.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that Dave didn't mention that in his list of horror movies. So that, closet Swifty, maybe.
No, my daughter's going to see Taylor Swift this coming Thursday night. So,
Oh, wow.
She is exceptionally talented, all jokes aside. But
oh,
yeah,
I just need her
it's,
to hold up one of my books. That's all.
go.
No kidding.
It's again, yeah, kind of like everybody else. I don't have a lot of time for movies or TV, mainly because if I sit down to watch anything within 10 minutes, I'm getting jumped on or crawled on by dog, kid, something. Um, I did like the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, but I think my favorite movies have been because I've been able to spend them with going with my family. Sorry, we did see Twisters, which my son loves. He's 5 years old, but he was up there talking about tornadoes. So that's how he says it, tornadoes. And then he jams out to the music from him. Like he really gets amped up and it's hilarious. Like you've seen my daughter get amped up, but my son does it too. And then I took Aria to see the 10th anniversary release of John Wick back into the theater. So we went and enjoyed that. And then we all had a really great movie night where we watched The Wild Robot. And that was fantastic.
Okay.
Very nice.
Everybody liked it. So that, I mean, that's hands down. That's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
TV wise, I watched Skinwalker Ranch with my son. He loves to
Yes.
talk about the phenomena.
Okay.
And you're a 5-year-old say phenomena. It's great.
That's good TV.
It
I
is.
don't think
It's
anybody says.
addicting.
Yeah.
I even
That
have
and Oak Island.
I got my Skinwalker Ranch Insider t-shirt. I'm a nerd. And then I got my daughter into High Potential. That's new, just came out this year. And this one I'm going to recommend for this group because you all appreciate it. But Matlock with Kathy Bates.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal. I watched the first episode just because Kathy Bates is in it. Oh my God, it's good. It's not what you expect. You got to watch to the end because it is not what you expect.
My wife loves the new Matlock. She thinks it's fabulous.
It's amazing. I am hooked.
Is Kathy Bates the Matlock character? Were they?
She is. It's not a remake. It is not a remake. She is a lawyer, and the title is Matlock, but that is the only connection. It is not a remake of the TV show.
Oh, okay.
Anytime I see Kathy Bates, I go out and make sure the shed's locked because I don't want the sledgehammer to come out. I struggle with it. My legs are hurting already just thinking. What's she gonna do?
That's another author dream, right? That you would be loved so much by fans that you'd be kidnapped and tortured by a fan. I mean, could there be anything better as an author?
Eric volunteers his tribute.
Yes, that's what I'll do. Is if I ever get kidnapped, I'll tell. No, I know where he actually is. I know him.
Just a sec. I'll text him. Yeah. Yeah.
You all can fight over who's going to host this after I'm dead. Is all I gotta say. Go, the winner, the one that's alive at the end gets the gig, and it's unpaid, and it's a few hours every week, so enjoy it. So, no, awesome. Actually, in the Oak Island show, I have a cousin up in Nova Scotia, so he actually saw him last Thanksgiving. I was up in Connecticut with family. And saw him. I hadn't seen him since I was a little boy, been a long, long time. And he was telling me all about it. He's like, "No, he's been there. He know the guys from the show sometimes are over in Nova Scotia and Halifax. So he's actually met the guys." And he's like, "No, you need to come up here and check it out." And so it's on the next couple year list to make it up there.
That's been an obsession for our family. We started watching it, I think, during COVID shutdown in 2020, and just binged watched like 12 seasons or whatever it is, and we still will log in and watch every single episode.
Nice.
I think it was like same thing, Skinwalker Ranch. I'd heard of it forever, but then John did the show on Spear Talk. It was really, really interesting. I was like, oh, I'll check this out. Mistake. Once I watched the first episode, I watched everything. And then I was just waiting. I'm counting down to the next season. Like, come on. Time.
So let's bring this back to writing since we got our entertainment buzz out of us. So let's bring it back to writing and talk about how, maybe each of you can just take a couple minutes and talk about kind of not just how you've changed as a writer or anything like that, but kind of, kind of your lessons you've learned, and almost like if you could tell your first book self what you now know further down the path. So, Dave, you're working on your second one, but I know you've got so much experience now with these several years of what you've been working on that I'm sure you do have some advice for your younger self. So you start us off, Dave.
Well, definitely, I wish I would have started earlier. Because how much I enjoy writing novels. I never thought I would, and I just absolutely love it. So it's something I wish I would have started earlier,
Mhm.
for sure. I think I got hung up too much on just the panic of people hating the book. That was my fear. And I wish I would have told myself, just write for yourself.
Mhm.
And I think that's the best advice you can give any writer, basically, is just, write for yourself.
Yeah.
But all those things that were like roadblocks to me, nobody's going to like this, and this isn't going to work. Nobody's going to like a Native American character, and so on and so forth. So I think that's the advice I would give my younger self, those things.
Mhm.
I'm finding writing a second book is a lot harder. I don't know if anyone else has that experience, but I think writing a second book is harder than the first book. That's
There's
what I'm.
pressure, lots of pressure.
The
Right.
sophomore slump, it is real. It hurts.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I actually I'd heard that a lot. I never believed it. I just
Yeah.
thought, well, nothing can be harder than the first book, and it's quite a bit harder.
Well, you have your whole life, like it's a cliche, but you do have your whole life to write that first book, and then especially for like you, who's got a publisher, you're under contract, and they don't want you to say, hey, I'll get it done when I get it done. They're like, no, they have expectations, especially with your book doing as well as it has, that they want to monetize this, they want a second book. So yeah, the pressure of that, and then the internal of I think once you do it once, you would think you're like, yeah, I got this. But the imposter syndrome kicks in. And then you're like, well, maybe it was a fluke. Maybe all those nice reviews that I got, maybe Charles Hack paid for them. Maybe they paid, maybe they're paid, maybe they're not real. But I think it becomes, a struggle for you of going, can I do it again? And I think ultimately if you love doing this, you have to do it again. You have to,
Yeah.
even if you don't do as well, even if the book doesn't sell as well or whatever. I think this is something that, speaking for all of us, we have this in us. So I think we have a responsibility to keep doing it. And I think if we do, I think the problems will solve themselves. Even if there's an ebb and flow with sales or whatever like that, we're going to get better. And also, I think the other thing too, speaking of what you said, Dave, and I agree with you. I think most people would say, I wish I started earlier, but I do think there's a gift to not starting when you're super young, because that gift is that you have experience. And that experience in what happens to you in life, I think gets manifested in the pages much better than if you started doing this at 17 or 18 years old. I think that maturity, except for me, maybe
Oh
the
yeah.
maturity normally kicks in. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. David, what do you got?
My advice to my younger writing self, um, I already had the perseverance and the dedication. It would have, for me, I would have gone back to the me that was in grade 12 English and slapped myself upside the head and said, wake the hell up. Why are you first grade 12 hung over in school? Two, why aren't you paying attention? This is stuff you're going to need not in 1988, but in 19 or 2022 or 2020, like whatever. Like it would have been such it, oh, it would have kicked my ass. So anyway, definitely that I should have paid more attention in school, to help now with such simple things as dangling participles or is it okay to do this and this? Well, generally as a rule everything's okay as a writer, you can get away with it. But and the second thing I wish I did back then, and I've talked to you countless times about this, is you just can't put your book up for sale online and sit back and go, that was great. Now where's all the money? It doesn't work that way, and you got to advertise, you got to have a budget for it, and you got to get your name out there. And I've run the advertising gauntlet I got a really firm grip on it now, but it was hard one, and I paid for it. So
Yeah. No, absolutely. Very, very, very true. Charles, I'm going to have you talk next, but I've got the ledger going here. So David's at 2 now, so he's got 2, and Eamon's at 1. So they'll Venmo you at the end for these improper words, just so you know. So I'm keeping
Yeah,
track for you.
yeah, yeah. And there's no Bible words being used either, which those usually get a pass.
Oh,
Wait,
uh,
wait, wait. Did you
anyway.
just give me the roadmap on how to curse without incurring penalties? Because that's what it sounded like to
I think
me.
she listened. What do you know?
A loophole, yes.
Loophole. Yeah.
There's always a
But
loophole to everything. So,
yeah, exactly.
what, Charles?
Uh,
Besides loopholes, what do you got for advice for your
yeah.
younger self and for writers out there?
So I don't know if I'm unique in this, but I did start when I was younger. I was well, maybe mid 20s. So I've been writing for over 20 years. But none of that stuff was publishable. I wrote a ton of short stories. I learned, how to tell stories. I had a bunch of failed books and things. And by failed, never finished because I couldn't plot my way out of a paper bag. It was pretty terrible. But you learn just by all that practice. So now having published books and dealing with the process of producing books, which I love. I mean, I do love formatting. I even don't mind editing and all that stuff. But one of the biggest mistakes that I made in my early book, and I've gotten better as I've gone, is being way too wordy, trying to describe everything. I am not a lean writer. I'm a bulky writer. Lots of description, lots of like I want you to see it and feel it and smell it and the temperatures and everything. So it's very immersive. But in doing that, I'll spend so much time trying to do that that the story grinds to a halt. And my wife's been very kind over the years to say, this paragraph's terrible because it's just too wordy and you're losing the speed in the story. So what I've learned to do a lot more is to be more clever, still be as immersive as possible, but clever and sharper, less words. So my latest work that I'm almost complete with is it's still a ton of words. I mean, it's going to be 120,000 words, but it's leaner and sharper. So there's a lot of story at 120,000 words rather than a lot of fluff, which my first book would have been at 130,000. So
Yeah.
Counting on the reader's imagination to fill in the gaps was the hardest thing for me to wrap my brain around, and you have to do that. When I describe walking into an office with bookshelves and a mahogany desk in the corner, I don't need to go into any details. Everybody's just painted a picture about that. Uh, and you have to trust the reader to fill in those gaps, or else it'll be a 200,000 word book.
yeah, and part of the problem was writing science fiction in a world, similar like fantasy and stuff. There are things that are familiar and you want to tie into the familiarity, but also you're trying to describe things that nobody's ever seen before. So there is I think by moving to the mystery novel and I could write in reality, it helped me to say, oh yeah, people know what a Chevy Tahoe is. Cool. I don't have to describe that. But they don't know what my special forces Starhawk spacecraft is, which is sort of like a far future Black Hawk helicopter kind of thing. And so that's been really challenging, but I do feel like I'm advancing there. The other thing is, that old saying that everybody always says, show, don't tell. Um, oh my current editor is brutal in helping me to see, like, quit telling me. If you can't show it in some sort of action or like an emotional response or a action or something, just quit telling me. And that's been wonderfully helpful as well.
Awesome.
That,
Ava?
that I could actually feel that one because I mean that's something you get as a novelist, but now that I've shifted over to the screenwriting, and Dave can probably back me on this, like that whole show don't tell is next level. It is, oh yeah, that's a hard lesson to really get in there. But if I was going back to talk to myself right at the get-go, I would stop myself from shooting myself in the foot because I planned a series right off the bat. And I had this idea in my head that I would do this kind of arc over 3 books, and then my story would go over 3 books. And so then, okay, first book ends, move on to the second book. And, my editor's like, yeah, this isn't a standalone book. I'm like, no, but I already did the stuff in the first one. And they're like, nope, it's got to be a standalone. You got to continue your story, but still, be true to the readers who've already done it. And I think I got eviscerated brutally when I turned in that manuscript. After I crawled out from underneath my desk and licked my wounds, I kind of got back into it. But that's what I realized, is that if I had just looked at my story as the story, just told my story, blocked out everything else, I'm not planning for anything else other than telling a fantastic story, I could have then gone and been like, okay, I can partition this off for the first book, partition this off for the second book, partition this off for the third book. And it'd been easier for me to make it flow and still have the standalones and be true to the story. So I think I ended up making things 20 times harder for myself. So luckily, when I got to book 3, I had already been beaten pretty badly. So I learned a little bit and, made some adjustments. But I could have saved myself some pain back on day 1 if I had just been true to the story, just told that story.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
That makes me
I would
think.
love to hear more about that, actually, because
What, me being beaten and crawling under my desk? Because
no, not that part. No,
I got a brutal editor.
We can visualize that part. but
show, don't tell.
Yeah. So in my sci-fi series, I am doing what you're describing. Like, you can't read book 2 without reading book number 1. And I did it intentionally, and I'm stealing from other guys that have, kind of write in that way where it's forcing into a series you have to read. But I'm super curious on some of how you're breaking that up, and yeah, but that maybe for another time.
Anytime. Hit me up anytime.
What I was going to say and what I was thinking as you said that is, the one thing that we always have to be kind to ourselves is you don't know what you don't know. So especially when you're getting into this and you're writing your first story, and you can absolutely completely shoot yourself in the foot, but you also have to give yourself grace to say, you know what, you've accomplished something that really, in the scheme of humanity, few people have ever done. How many people that have ever, there's what, almost 9 billion that are on planet Earth now. Not a large percentage of those people have written a book. And then you take however many billion people have lived in the course of human history. And it's, again, it's not an ego thing, but it's something to give yourself props of, you've pursued something and you finished something. You might have learned many lessons during the way of all the things you did wrong. Okay. At the worst case scenario, the book's out, you can't change it, you can't go back and fix it. Do the next series correctly. Take those lessons you learned from botching up series 1 and just recreate the wheel and go, start a new series, and this time do it without those things you might view with hindsight as being flawed. But since I've read your books, they're not flawed, they're amazing. So I'm looking forward to what comes out next. So. Which is what we're going to segue into to end this. I'm not going to ask the question I'll ask you guys independently, but we're going to end this with, what are you working on? Where can people buy what you've already written? And, because Christmas is, according to my hat, Christmas is here. And so, people need to go out and buy Christmas presents. And even if you've bought anyone's books on this show, guess what? You can go buy another copy for friends, family, and frenemies. So if you really don't like someone, you definitely should go buy either David's, Charles, or Emma's books and give them to those people you don't really like in life, because maybe they'll then be nicer to you, and maybe you'll like them.
Buy them book 2, but never book 1, just to see what they do.
That is diabolical.
Yeah.
Love it. Dave, tell us about, we know what you're doing because, we've seen it, but tell us what's going on and when we can expect to see your next release.
The sequel book, The Wrath of Legends, comes out on December 18th of 2025.
Okay.
So that'll be my next one. And then I have a straight action book coming out August of 2026 called Suspension. So that's what I'm working on directly after this one. Luckily, my publisher gave me a little bit of grace, and they moved the publishing date back for me a little bit. So they're working with me, being a little slower than I thought right now. So I'm really blessed by that.
Well, and speak to this real quickly too of how cool is it? Because like you said, in a way you could say late bloomer. You didn't start writing or didn't try to publish a book, when you were younger. You've had a career, you've been working for a long time. How cool is it to have that feeling of you've gotten such great reviews and done so well with the first book, and now you see there on the horizon you'll have three out within, the next few years, really. So maybe talk to that a second, especially as a encouragement to people that are watching this and like, man, it's such a hard hill to push that stone up. And it's like, it is, but it actually, you do end up getting some momentum going as you keep pushing.
Yeah, I mean the first book, it was the rocky moment to me. It was going those full 15 rounds as a writer and just doing what I want to do. Yeah, it was a personal thing with me. It was a triumph. It had nothing to do with ego or sales or anything. It was like I finally sat down and I did it, you know. And so the once you're done and trying to get it published, I don't have to worry about that right now. So that's a real gift. So I do know that my publisher's out there and they want whatever I want to write. They've been really flexible with it.
Mhm.
So that's just a great feeling, knowing that pressure's off. The added pressure, of course, is the second or third book and trying to live up to expectations and
Mhm.
uh, trying to be better than you were. It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's very, 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 very hard and challenging in a different way.
Right.
Yeah, I almost feel like Rocky going back into the ring now. I've got an opponent like Drago now. It's a little bigger and badder than I thought, right? But I'm gonna go the distance on this one. I'm gonna knock this guy out. I'm gonna be the victor on the second book for sure.
Speaking of Rocky, I think Mike Tyson probably could have taken him
Uh,
down this weekend. I think it was a setup for money, but I think Iron Mike held back a little bit. So
Well, he got that great jaw shot, and boy, if he had a couple more of those, Jake Paul could have stood up. Yeah,
I don't know if all of us were commenting or that were on here. I know a couple people were, but oh my
yeah.
goodness, Netflix, who I think they're saying is trying to get NFL games. Not if they do what they did with that, because I know some people has had perfect issue. I had it on the whole time. I wasn't watching all of it, but I had it on in the other room, and it buffered for a while more than
yeah.
anything else. And I'm like, this is not cool. I even tried another television. Thought, okay, maybe my big TV is being a butthead, and I need to go to the smaller one in the back room. But yeah, wasn't pretty.
No.
So, Charles, what's coming up next for Mr. Hack?
Yeah, so I am finishing right now. We'll be launching sometime in the new year. I'm thinking probably end of January at this point. The third full-size book, the fourth total book in my Space Warfare Group series. This is the first one, Into the Darkness, Space Warfare Group, book number one. Brand new cover, absolutely glorious, love it. Book number three, full-size book three, title's confidential, cover's confidential still. I'm going to start releasing those in the next couple weeks. Really excited about it. I'm happy with the story. So that's going to come out in. I'm really hoping January if we can pull it off. I need to just set a date and then kill myself to get it done. And then the other thing in 2025 will be I'm gonna be releasing two sequels for the mystery series, my Hank Lynn mystery series, which is set at Lake Tahoe. They are very much in the sort of CJ Box, Joe Pickett vibe, or Longmire, that sort of action Western mystery, modern Western mystery kind of thing. Character driven. There's some faith-based elements in this as well, which I'm excited about. So that'll be my big focus once this Space Warfare Group book is out.
Awesome. David Darling. Now, David, don't forget, we're filming this, and when this comes out, you'll already have another book out. We got to get the timing right here, David. So,
Yes. Okay. So since I'm speaking to you from the future, this has already come out, the Egyptian Enigma, uh, ebook, paperback, and audiobook. So the first time I took the plunge, hired a great narrator for that. So November 26th, that came out. What am I working on now? I got a February, March release. It's a young adult fantasy novel. I promised my daughter I'd write her one, so I did. And it's part of a series, and that's done and ready to go. And what I'm actually working on right now is a Glenn Beckett recon Marine caught up in some bad juju from
Mhm.
Afghanistan. He's paying the price, and now he's looking for revenge. And I'm wrapping that up again, and I have an agent already interested in it, so I got some deadlines to meet. So
Awesome.
that's it.
You are the machine, David. Forget Bert Kreischer. You are the machine. So love it. Ema, you probably killed the machine in a previous life, so tell us about what you're working on now besides killing the machine.
Skynet's real. It's gonna happen, guys. It's like, so I still have film school to finish, so it'll be a little bit later in 2025 before we'll get L. Anderson 5. It is coming. It is in the works, and I'm pretty happy with it so far. But I'm also trying out another series idea. It's going to be conspiracy-based thriller with a little sci-fi vibe. And I'm probably gonna throw my hat in the audiobook ring as actually doing the audiobook myself for Origin Story. It's like, who can play a psychopath better than me? I can do this. Um,
Say that.
and yeah, and then I have a super secret squirrel project with you that, probably is coming out sometime in 2025, maybe.
I didn't hear that. Maybe if
Eh,
the sixth person that was supposed to be here tonight was on, we could have maybe announced something. But alas, it's just us. So
Eric, if I could add one more thing, you guys just
100%.
reminded me. I have a deal for audiobooks for my space warfare group. All 4 books done at one time with a new audiobook reader who is phenomenal. It's going to be really exciting. So he's going to start recording in February or March. I think we've got that all planned out, and hopefully I'll have them all released by the fall. So I'll be getting all 4 of those Space Warfare Group books out on audio this year. And this guy is a actor he's got a British accent, and he's a like 15-year veteran actor. So he's got all the accents and the whole thing. I just cannot wait.
That's great.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm behind the curve on the audiobooks, and I'll get there. I've not been willing to invest. When I know you have to invest, you got to take a chance. So we'll see what 2025 brings. Maybe I'll finally maybe we'll get The Body Man or one of the other books. And I keep hearing people tell me just read it yourself. And I do know my voice probably would be pretty good for it, but it's just like another one of those things that I'm like, I don't know how thin something will break at some point. This thing's getting older, and it's like probably maxing out my CPU sometimes and being stupid at the same time. So I don't know. We'll
Yeah, I'm so afraid with audiobooks that you only get one chance if your reader is not good, which if I read my own, I know it would not be good because I don't do accents, I don't do other voices. It would be
Right.
monotone, and you would it just wouldn't be good. And so I've been so afraid to make a mistake. And so when I found this particular guy who reads fantasy novels and he's willing to do sci-fi, I'm just so excited because I don't need to do it now. And I can get away with a British accent in my books, which is great. Not everybody can do that.
Very nice.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate all of you. Again, circling back to what we kind of talked about earlier, the community of writers really is humbling to be around. So we all kind of stay in our little places wherever that might be and work on our novels, and then we get to come out and we get to help each other. We get to and all of you have been super helpful with me. David, I probably owe him percentages, and we'll talk offline. David. The cool thing what David's done is he didn't blaze a trail. Other people have obviously done indie publishing, but he got to that point when this is more preaching to people that might be listening, is he had so many doors slammed in his face, but he knew he was supposed to be writing stories. And at some point, you do have to make that decision of, do I want an agent? Do I want to be on the New York Times bestseller list? What do you want out of this gig? If you've got stories in you, find a way to get them out. And that's the one thing I admire about what David's done is he had enough doors slammed in his face that he said, okay, I'm going to research how do I put these out myself because people do it and they're successful. And I mentioned this in other podcasts. Years ago, I was told by like someone on the New York Times bestseller list, hey, self-publish your first book. And I didn't not I wasn't going to not do it because I thought the system or doing that was a lesser version. I just knew it was a lot of work. So now 2024 Eric could go back and talk to 2014 Eric and say, hey, guess what? It is. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot
But
of
at the end of the day, it's worth it. So I've prioritized things and I'm disciplined about stuff where, hey, guess what? I just watched Back to the Future in the theater and that's my movie for the year or whatever. Just cut out certain stuff and you have to find what's important to you. What, a bigger thing with life. What's important in life for you? So often we get bogged down in things that really, negativity and stuff. At the end of the day, does it really matter? So what do you want to accomplish? So for us, for the five of us that are on here right now, we want to put out good books and we want to challenge ourselves and get better. Well, the only way to do that is keep writing, keep hustling, keep encouraging each other. And when you find something new, a way that works, tell another writer. You don't need to keep it in your private stash because that person's not really competing with you. And if they are, you call Amos. She can take care of them for you. Unofficially, sorry.
I got you.
Yeah. So, but no,
Well,
I
thank you
appreciate
so
all of you.
much.
Thanks for
Thank you
coming
so
on. And
much for putting us together. Yeah, getting us all together as a group is great. Meeting the new, lots of information here, and all your efforts are greatly appreciated on our end as well. So
Well,
thank you.
we'll do it again. Thank you for helping 2024 be successful. Just your individual episodes. I really enjoyed that. The podcast isn't a ton of work, but the most rewarding part of it is I get to speak with people that I might not get to talk to that often and that I enjoy talking about this craft. And again, we're blessed to be able to do it. So thank you all for coming on.
Yeah.
Thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Everyone that's watching this and listening to this, go buy their books. There'll be links. Go buy their books.